everyone. Welcome back to another session of Real Talk, Real Stories. My name is Advita Patel, and I am one of the co-founders of the ACN Comms Network. We tune in every week with a special guest who's going to be sharing their story around their career, trials and tribulations, adversities that they face, and some of the great stuff that they are working on as well. And today I am joined by the wonderful Jasmeet. Welcome, Jasmeet.
Hello, thank you for having me.
How are you doing?
Yeah, good. It's a busy week, but we get through.
Yeah, we do. I'm really excited to have a chat with you. If you're watching us live, then please say hello in the comments and tell us where you're tuning in from. And please use the comments as well to ask any questions that you might have for Jasmeet or myself, or even about the ACN Comms Network if you're interested. So before we get into it, Jasmeet, would you tell our audience, those who are watching us live and those watching on replay, a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So currently I'm an operations director at Multicultural Marketing Consultancy. So we're a bit of a niche agency, but I'll be honest, I have a very squiggly career. So I have been around the block, I would say, in different industries, different roles, but very, very much ingrained in the kind of marketing space. So I've been working for about 12, 13 years now. And yeah, I'm part of the ACN community. So joined about a year ago, just as you guys were setting up. A really interesting space because I've never been part of a Asian community space. So it's quite interesting for me.
No, I love that. And same for me, actually. You know, I've never really belonged to a space just for Asian communication professionals. So as well as being one of the co-founders, it's been a really interesting learning curve for me, for Zano and Shayoni, actually. So, and having people like yourself who've been with us since day one is just incredible, because you really helped us build the network into what it is today, and continuing to build the network. So in terms of your kind of career journey, what led you into the world of marketing? What was your kind of inspiration to kind of get into this space?
Yeah, I'll try and shorten this, because considering how much I've moved around, but when I was young, I actually kind of self-taught myself to be a graphic designer. One of those moments when you're sitting on the computer, you know, using PaintShop Pro, Adobe, all of that. This shows how old I am, but kind of got into that. But one way or another, I actually ended up going into sales and commercial roles in my first sort of job. And that was in a retail store. So it was really interesting. But I always had this sort of creative streak in me that I wanted to utilize. And I was like, okay, I see an opportunity here to move into a marketing role, and I really want to give it a go. So luckily I had a really good support system around me, understood the business well enough, and I kind of just shifted. So sorry to all those people that have done marketing degrees and stuff. I kind of bypassed that and just kind of went straight into it. But yeah, from there, I kind of moved around. So I've done a lot of kind of end-to-end marketing and communication. So it's been very generalist. And that's literally what I class myself. I'm a generalist at heart. You know, I'm never going to specialize in anything in particular, but I love business development. So when I go into a space, I'm thinking about, right, how can we make this better? How can we scale? How can we impact it? And I remember actually when I first got into the kind of advertising space, because before that I had been in kind of like higher education, charity, etc. But it was COVID, and I decided I'm young and I've got many years to work, and I actually really want to work in a creative agency. So I was just like, I've got to just make this decision now. So I left in the height of the pandemic, left my job, and just decided I'm going to network as much as I can and get into the advertising industry. And I came across Multicultural Marketing Consultancy, so MMC, where I'm at right now. Did a little stint and absolutely loved it. But then I was like, nope, the world is my oyster. I still want to do more. I still want to try different industries. Went into tech startups, and then somehow always still ended up doing all of the marketing work for those tech startups as well. So, and then just decided that I've just got to stay in that industry because I really enjoy it. It gives me the creative energy that I need, but I'm also very, very process driven. So it's very two different skill sets, I would say. It's like operations and then marketing and creativity. But that's how I ended up as an operations director at MMC, just kind of paved my way to the senior leadership role in an industry that I pretty much enjoy. So yeah.
I love that. Well, you know, I love hearing that I love bold, courageous movers. It's the world that I'm in, and I love people living up to their potential. What was it? You know, what was it? What was that pull for you to make that take that risk, really, Jasmeet, right? In the height of the pandemic, people were very nervous about what this could mean for them. They were staying pretty still because the job market was just, chaotic, if you remember at that time.
Absolutely.
But what was it for you that really gave you that push and that boldness to make that decision to try something new?
I think, weirdly enough, the pandemic was a bit of a reset for me in terms of like, what is it? What are my priorities? What is it that I want out of life? Because everyone that I had been surrounded by in terms of family, friends, loved ones, growing up in an immigrant household, we were always taught about stability, just kind of keep working hard, make your money, don't complain, just get on with it. Yeah. And I got to a point where I was like, actually, yes, I've got the stability. My parents have built that up for me, but they've also built that to enable me to be free and to be able to do more with myself. And that, in that moment, I was like, work-life balance was crazy for me during the pandemic. A lot of people were being put on furlough, but actually my role wasn't. So I was like, and the fact that I was thinking in my head, I would like to be put on furlough was probably one of those things where I was like, okay, I need a break first, but I also need to just think, what is it that I feel passionate about and driven by? Yeah. So that really sparked it. But I would say generally, I'm probably one of those people that are quite risk averse, but then also randomly make very bold decisions. So you never know what you're going to get with me.
I love it. I mean, that's the thing about it. It's about balance, isn't it? I always say to folks that I coach is, when your time is ready to move, because you get that feeling, like you've had where you were just like, I wish I was put on furlough. I wish I'm going to work today. That is a signal. I mean, we all have these odd days, even in our wonderful, perfect jobs. If you love your job, there is the odd day that you may feel that way. Absolutely. But if it's a constant feeling of doom, of constant feeling of like just feeling a bit low, then that there's a change needed in that space. Otherwise, what's the alternative, right? That's what I always kind of say. It's like, well, what's the alternative? If you don't make the change or make that shift, what's going to happen? And it was interesting that you said that you had the support of your parents and the people around you to take those chances and risks on yourself, right? Because our parents, their generation, and I'm assuming we're probably similar generation, is that they were told to, they came into a space where they were told that they didn't belong, much worse than what we're probably experiencing today. Absolutely. So they've been conditioned, haven't they, to think, stay safe, stay stable, don't head above the parapet, keep your head down, don't cause a fuss. That's what they were told by the reactions around them. Even in the 70s and 80s when they were, growing a family. When you think about some of the adversity that you faced in the early days of your career, if there was any, there may not have been for you, but what was it that kind of pushed you through any challenges outside? Because you had your parents' support, which is fantastic, but there weren't many people who looked like you or me in the world of marketing or advertising or even PR and comms in 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Yeah. So what was it that kind of helped you push through and you understood that this was the career for me? Yeah,
I think interestingly, what I would say is I feel like I moved in life with a bit of naivety, if I'm being very honest. So my early days of my careers, it was just what I've seen with the people around me, what they've achieved. I've kind of just got through it. Yeah. And I think for me personally, like Black Lives Matter was a massive moment for me to do a bit of a reality check, because I think when a lot of the conversations were coming out around that time, around microaggressions, racism, all those elements, I had to take a step back and think, I've just kind of, and I guess, again, this comes from that immigrant experience as well, of you just get told to get on with it. So you don't complain, you don't say anything, you don't cause any conflict. And sometimes you're just, brushing it aside, anything that people might be saying to you or the way that they might be approaching you. And I think I definitely did that. I kind of closed myself in. I never really thought about those things. But then when I reflected back, I was like, there were so many moments that those things were happening, but I just chose to ignore it and just get on because that's all I knew what to do. And I think that was really interesting for me, because then when I got to MMC and the work that they were doing around multicultural communities, interestingly, it made me really realize like my culture and my, is important. It is a part of me. And I really want to build that into the work that I do as well. It's almost like being British and Indian, I had to kind of separate the two almost. I had to separate. When I was at work, I was just British. When I was going home, I was Indian. I had to just separate the two. So I think a lot of it was just mental. It was a lot of it was just mentally trying to push myself to get through. And then I got to a place where I was like, you know, no one's going to hold me back. I'm not going to allow them to. It's myself that's holding myself back. And I remember seeing, I think it was Paminda Mann. She's the CEO of a publishing organization. I remember seeing her in lockdown, and I reached out to her, and I just remember thinking, I was like, this is the first Indian woman that I've seen who's the CEO. Like, I've never seen that in the UK before. And clearly I just haven't been around those kind of people, or, you know, grown up in that environment potentially. But that shifted my mindset. I was like, instead of just striving, you know, I wanted to be thriving. That's kind of where I got to. And I was like, no, I've got to do more with my life. I've got to, you know, aim higher. I can't just stay at the level that I was at that point. So mentally, something just shifted in me massively. I was like, nope, I'm not going to let anyone hold me back.
Oh, I love that. You know what? I relate to it so much. Because similar, you know, I think I know I would love to hear from the folks who are watching us as well, if that's relatable to them, because I do believe that in our early career we all conformed, right? We followed. I think we all had a little bit of we're all a little bit naive, I suppose, in our early careers. We've been conditioned in a certain way. We wanted to belong in the workspace, so we ignored, I suppose, the eye rolls or the insides or the slightly passive aggressive comments and microaggression, and we just kind of, you know, kept our head down like our parents told us to and work hard. And I do believe that we get to a certain point in our career where you do have that epiphany, and you're a bit like, hang on a minute. And for me, it was validation. Like, I never moved in my career unless I was given validation and permission by somebody else.
Yeah,
I waited. I always waited. Oh, you're good now, Advita. You're a high performer. You've got a green light on your performance review. Now you can go for your next role. Yeah, you're great. Now you can ask for a promotion. Like, always waiting for that permission. And I kind of waited, almost like Oliver in Oliver Twist, where you're with the bowl begging to be like seen and heard. And I realized that other people were just like overtaking, right? And to your point, one day it literally felt like an overnight thing where I was just like, no, absolutely not. Like, I get it. We're dealing with lots of different biases and adversity, but I'm not going to keep waiting and holding myself back for people to give me permission to live my life how I want to live it. And it does take a bit of courage. Like, you've had plenty of that, the shift that you've made. And it takes, you know, sheer determination to keep pushing, even though people around you might be trying to push you or hold you back. So I love that kind of courageous, bold moves that we make. And I will always kind of remind myself and say, well, what's the worst that can happen? I'm not going anywhere right now in this role. You know, I'm still having to wait for permission. So what if I did take that chance on myself? So I absolutely love that. When you think about, you mentioned the CEO, Paminda, he said.
Paminda Mann, yeah.
And there aren't, you know, while you were saying that, I was thinking of the CEOs, Asian women CEOs that I know of, and I can't even tell you, honestly. It's so bad, isn't it? And I know that they do exist, but it just demonstrates that we still so much more work to do, right, to kind of get out there.
Absolutely.
Who were your kind of inspirations then? Like, you mentioned Paminda, but was there anyone else that kind of really helped you push to where you are today, or was it more like self-advocacy for yourself?
It's funny because I still think, like, despite the way that my family might think around kind of stability and everything, they were still always my biggest inspiration in terms of like seeing how my dad powered through in the UK, you know, and got to where he did, barely knowing much English, bear in mind, like, you know, never feeling really confident to speak to it. And I just thought, if they can settle somewhere in a completely new country without any of those kind of resources that we have today, surely I can do much more with this time. Same with my brother. He was a massive inspiration to me because he just kept the family going. He was definitely the stability anchor, but I learned so much from him, particularly in the operations space, I think. And then I think what happened was a little bit of it was getting into new spaces. Like, as soon as I moved into new spaces and saw different people, my network almost grew and changed. Everyone kind of became a bit of an inspiration, I would say, because you would see new things. You would see people who are really high achieving. You'd see people who wanted more from the world, people that, you know, focus more on social impact. But my biggest inspiration, I think, just in my last couple of years, I would say there's two founders. So one is Patricia, who I work for right now. And I'm not kissing grass by any means, but being a Black female leader in this space, in a space where you're often having to fight to talk about multiculturalism and, you know, make it important. And she's done it so quietly. Like the amount of things I've known that she's done and she's managed to get through, most people won't know, but she just shines, and most people don't know about that. And I've just always been inspired by her. The other one actually was another Indian Muslim founder that I got to know when I was in tech startups, and her name was Zina, and she co-founded a company, and then it got acquired by Spotify. And I was just so impressed. Again, someone who's like me, you know, same age as me, just doing these amazing things. But the one thing I loved about these people is how down to earth they were. You know, they never needed to toot their own horn or anything like that. They just kind of powered through life and let their work talk for them. And I think that was incredibly inspiring for me in terms of even thinking about where I could get to eventually if I just changed my mindset a little bit more.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I absolutely, you know, the people, especially women of color, who are just smashing it out of the park and are doing it in a way that aligns with their integrity, their values, you know, and then making a difference in the world, right? And you're right, you know, some of these people don't need to keep, I mean, I've got no issue with people shining and sharing their achievements. I think that's really important. Absolutely. But also on the other side of it, it's just quietly cracking on. Like I'm not getting myself involved in this noise over here. I am going to crack on and do what I do best and do it well and make sure the people around me have the support that they need. And I'm making the difference that I want to make in the life that I've got around me. Absolutely. I absolutely adore people like that because it's easy, right, Jasmeet? We spoke just before we went live about the noise around us right now and the distractions that are taking place. And it's really easy to get sucked into some of this space and you can end up losing focus. And I strongly believe that that's what the intention is there to do, is to take us away from the good stuff we are trying to do and distract us and destroy our mental well-being and health. Because when I say this all the time, when people are fearful, you're easier to control, right? And to manage where people fear stuff. And it's really important we understand and recognize that when we're taking those bold, courageous moves like you have. So you're operations director at M&C, a senior role. You've spoken briefly about your kind of progression into that. What advice do you have to those folks who are listening or watching on replay who are feeling a bit stuck in their career? They've got to manager level, senior manager, been in the career for 10, 15 years and want to kind of get into director level or C-suite level. Yeah. Do you have any kind of good examples of what they should be doing to kind of be seen and be heard so they can make the progress that they want to make?
Oh, I could talk about this all day. I love it. This is like the topics I have whenever I'm mentoring, so I love it. But I think it is situational as well. Each individual has their own experiences, what they can do, what they can afford to kind of take risks on and so on. But I think one thing I would say is, you know, don't wait for that validation. Like you were saying, Advita, it was like, don't wait for the validation from someone else. If you feel like you're confident, you're doing a really good job, there is no doubt that you can push yourself a bit further and get into that next space. Absolutely. Don't wait for that kind of validation. I think that holds us back, and particularly as people of color, you know, we probably haven't been conditioned to be told how great we are most of the time. So I think for us, we need to be our own kind of superheroes and, you know, have to big ourselves up and gas ourselves up. So I would absolutely say, like, take that step, but also think about, you know, one thing that's always been stuck in my head is I might be working till I'm like 50, 60, 70 at this rate. You know, do I really want to be stuck in this place up until then? You know, unless I somehow make it really big and make a lot of money. But, you know, how long, like, what impact do I want to leave on the space that I'm in the world that I'm in? Yeah. And does it mean staying here in this place? Or actually, could I push myself and just test the waters and see what's out there a little bit more? And it's risky, but it's worth it once you come out of it the other side. And even if it's not the right path, because I've made decisions where things haven't worked out for me, absolutely okay. It was a learning curve for me as well. So it's not to say everything's been smooth sailing, everything's been perfect by taking all these bold steps. Sometimes those decisions are there to like make you learn. Yeah. And that's what you've got to remember. So a little bit of resilience, but yeah.
No, you're so spot on. Like, we fear failure, don't we? Because we are kind of held in higher, we have to, like my parents always said to me when I was growing up, that you have to work twice as hard as the more than the majority population, right? So to be seen and be heard and be recognized, you're going to have to put double the effort in, and that double the effort is the norm to what may be half the effort for somebody else who's from the majority group, right? And that's what I always kind of stuck with me. And in order for us to kind of make that shift, you have to have what you just said, that kind of self-advocacy. You got to champion yourself. You got to put yourself out there. You got to not be frightened about showing off a little bit about some of the great stuff you've done. And sometimes the people that I work with and manage and coach are very underrate themselves. Like, I'm not good and I need to be better and I need to do more. And actually, if you go back and just take 5 minutes, like, you know, and reflect on the greatness and the stuff you've done and the legacy that you're leaving, you would have done so much more than you're giving yourself credit for. But we just don't ever give ourselves the grace or the time to reflect on some of the fantastic things we have done in our careers or even in our communities and the work that we do to help people around us. And so we need to kind of applaud ourselves. And my favorite saying is, go where you're celebrated, not tolerated. And stand by that. You know, if you get the feeling wherever you are, workplace, community, friendships, that you're just being tolerated, then exit. Like, however you need to. Not everyone has the privilege to go straight away, but make a plan and exit. And I think that's builds that resilience in us a little bit. It gives us the control back and the power back to make decisions about the energy that surrounds us. So I love those tips. What are your thoughts on mentoring and coaching and sponsorship? You know, they're all very different, but have you experienced how like the positives and sometimes the negatives around this? Like, what's your experience with these kind of things? Because we get told that a lot, don't we? Get yourself a mentor, get yourself a sponsor. Like, what are your kind of experiences in these spaces?
I would say, like, I would highly advise it if you can, but also there is this piece of, like, don't just go for anyone when it comes to mentoring. There is that connection piece. People that can really understand your background, your experiences is really important. I think the reason why I say that as well is when I was kind of getting into the career field, I didn't have that, you know, in terms of mentoring or anyone that I could look up to in terms of where have they got to in life. It was kind of what was around me. And actually having mentors later on in my life has shown me what the possibilities are where I might not have considered it as much. So I think those are definitely spaces that I would encourage a lot of people of color to do as well, but more from even a networking perspective, because these are people that will think about you later down the line as like potentials. If they know how you work, they know how you think, they will probably reach out to you at some point. They might have an opportunity or might know someone who knows someone. And I know it's quite bad to say, but like, we've grown up in an environment where it's more about who you know than what you do or how good you are at a job. And you know what? It is true. I mean, I saw that so much in the tech startup industry. It's more about who you know than actually you applying for jobs and then, you know, going through the process.
Yeah.
And it works in your favor in many ways, one from a learning perspective, but also that kind of recognition future down the line. So I'd highly recommend it. That's my reason.
You're right, you're spot on. You know, it is who you know, and it shouldn't be, right? We all know that, but there's all sorts of reasons why it is, and it's down from trust, and it's down from they've been highly recommended, their work speaks for themselves, all of that kind of stuff kind of plays a part. Unfortunately, nobody is going to come knocking on your door and you an incredible opportunity, because what they don't know, they don't know. So as uncomfortable as some of the situations might be, and some people don't like the networking or playing the game, you know, as I said, you have to kind of balance out what it is that you want. And you don't have to, if you're quite, you know, content with your career and the work that you're doing, then that's absolutely okay. And this is one thing I think, you know, we spoke about leadership and senior leadership and moving into director roles, but not everybody wants to do that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think sometimes we put pressure on ourselves that, oh, I'm not progressing as quickly as I should be. But really think about, do you want to? Is it something you want to do? You know, some people don't. And I feel that's absolutely okay. And that's equally the right decision for those who do want to. So it's just, you know, while you're thinking about your career, to have a think about whether it is you want to progress or not.
Definitely. And that's been quite interesting for me as well, because I think I've always been someone who's like, move up the ladder, keep going. And then I met people who probably didn't want to do that as much. And it was a bit more of a reality check for me as well, because I was like, actually, that makes sense. Yeah, you know, your life circumstances, different things, just even the energy you want to exude at work. You know, some people don't want to spend too much of their time thinking about that. And that's absolutely fine. And even in those situations, I would say, like, you know, there might be something about work or your career that you're interested in, but, you know, it doesn't have to go exponentially to being a leader. It could just be improving yourself where you are right now. And that's okay. And even having a mentor for those kind of things, like just being really focused around what that mentorship is going to require or that coaching is going to help you with is really important. Just don't do it for the sake of doing it, but kind of understand yourself and where you want to grow or learn or want to, what you want to get better at, if there is anything. So,
because you get given advice, don't you, all the time? Like, oh, you go and get yourself a mentor, go and get yourself a sponsor. If you don't really know why, then don't do it until you're clear. Because both of us mentor, both of us coach. You know, we know that if you've got a mentee who doesn't really have a clear indication of why, it can be frustrating for both people, right? Like, you need to tell me what I can help you with, and you need to have a bit of an understanding, and I can guide you. But if you're coming to me just because you've been told to, that's going to be a bit difficult for you and for me to kind of guide you on that. So be quite clear, you're right, on why mentorship is important. We spoke briefly about the ACN community, and you've been with us, you know, nearly from day one, which is, you know, like I said, it was a community that started from nothing ultimately, and now we're growing into this incredible space. Those folks who are listening who are not part of the community, what advice or what could you say about the ACN that has helped you in some way or could help them? And why is it important to you? Because you stayed with us for a year, so it's, you know, it's good to get your...
Absolutely. And I'll be very, very transparent. Like, I've always been skeptical about these kind of things because I just haven't felt like I've needed to go into one space and just keep myself there. But actually, it's been super enlightening, but also just seeing, you know, the different experiences people go through as well, and being able to relate to them and have conversations around, especially the height of the moment that we're in right now. And just knowing there are other people like you going through the same things or tackling the same things, learning from one another. I think I've just loved how much people are willing to share in the group as well. And, you know, that's just, it doesn't matter how much you engage, but people are always going to be there talking. You can learn from them. You can have one-on-one conversations. I've met some great people from the group as well who have just ended up talking to outside of the, you know, the actual group itself. And I think that's been super helpful, particularly when I've kind of been in and out of this industry. So for me, again, it just kind of helps solidify my place and also like my understanding of the industry too. But I would highly, highly recommend it for anyone that is thinking about it. And there's no pressure to it, you know, there's no pressure. If anything, you're just getting a lot of great stuff from the community and you can take it. So
Love that. You know, and I was similar to you. You know, I've always been quite cynical of diversity groups. I have to hold my hands up. You know, when I was in my career, I never joined any groups that either a women's group or a, you know, the race group or the in those days BME group. BME. You know, I just felt like I was putting myself at a disadvantage. I think that's in my mind. I'd convinced myself that I don't want to be seen as different. I don't want to be seen as somebody who needs this additional support around me. I can do it on my own. You know, I had that kind of proper mindset around it and was quite dismissive of it. Then I realized, actually, probably about 8-9 years into my career, that actually there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a community around, surrounding myself with people who get it, who have the lived experiences similar to mine, who we can share and think and have ideas without the fear of trying to be someone that we're not. Because it doesn't matter how supportive some places can be. You still sometimes feel like, you know, when you're a minority, you feel like you have to show up as somebody else sometimes. And I feel like the ACN, you know, you articulate it so brilliantly. Like, it's that space where you can share ideas, how much you want to contribute, how much you don't want to. We're there for you, right? And it's lovely when we go to events and we see and recognize each other from the community. Like, oh my God, hi, so good to see you in person. And it's that lovely, relatable community. So thank you so much, Jasmeet, for being part of it. You know, for folks like you who have supported Fazana, Shioni, and myself, it means a lot because we can see it growing now. It's getting more vibrant. There's so much happening. We've got lots of different voices coming into it as well. There's diversity within our own community, which is incredible. We can find out more about the ACN as well by following us on LinkedIn or visiting our website, the asiancomsnetwork.com, or you can just send me, Shioni, or Fazana a DM. And we can help you out if you've got any questions about the community. Right, on a final note, Jasmeet, from you, what is the best advice you have ever received?
Oh, that's a good one. It was probably that one around like you're going to be working forever, so decide what's going to make you happy. If I'm being honest,
Love it.
that's guided me throughout.
Love that. You're so right, though. We are going to be, what, God willing, or universe willing, or whatever is spiritual willing, whatever you believe in. We will be working, most of us, for the next 20, 30, 40 years. So what's 1 year of taking a risk and seeing what happens? And I love that. You're so right. And someone told me that as well, actually. And that is, if I think about it, that conversation changed my life into what it is today. And that's when I decided to set my own business up. Because like, well, what's the worst that can happen? I am going to be working hopefully for the next 20, 40, 50 years. So what's 1 year of trying it out and seeing if it works? So brilliant advice. Thank you so much, Jasmeet. If people want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, LinkedIn is probably the easiest one. Absolutely. Feel free to connect with me on that. Always happy to chat.
Amazing. So we'll share Jasmeet's details in the LinkedIn post as well. But as I said, we are streaming live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram, and you can watch this back on replay if you want to kind of write down any of the golden nuggets that Jasmeet has shared with us today. We will be back next Wednesday at 12 o'clock with another wonderful guest. And like I said, if you've got any questions, comments around the ACN, then please get in touch. And thank you so much, Jasmeet, for this wonderful conversation today.
See ya.